missing training! Hurry up or Lloyd will give us one of his speeches on punctuality, dedication, and discipline. I don't want to listen to one of his speeches on punctuality, dedication, and discipline. Go! The shrill voice of Jay cut through the cold morning air like a scythe. It was often windy and cold at the Temple of Air Jitsu. That's one of the drawbacks of living high above the clouds. Another was getting up and down. But there were more advantages than drawbacks. For instance, one heck of a view. Real estate Patty Keys was constantly sending the ninja pamphlets to persuade them to sell. They weren't going to sell, and they were starting to feel really bad for the mailman who had to make the trip up there several times each month. His job hadn't become easier either. Nia had come up with a system by which they could move the floating island to new locations as they pleased. All it took was some very thick chains and a powerful booster set the Destiny's bounty. The sad reality was that the prospect of a temple with an ever-changing view just got Patty Keys even more eager, which meant more work for the mailman and his old pedal-propelled bicycle. Cole had considered to reveal that the temple was still haunted to scare Patty off, but he had decided against it for Jay's sake. This morning Cole was nowhere to be found. As Jay entered his room, all he found was Cole's neatly made bed and a note carefully placed on his pillow. Cole was already far away. He had left before sunrise, which is pretty early when you live on a floating mountain. He was on foot and carried only a small bundle with some food and necessities, plus his new weapon of choice, a heavy hammer which had been given to him by his father Lou. Cole was glad that his father had come to terms with him being a ninja, and the gift of the hammer seemed to be the definite approval from him. Cole had become quite fond of it too. Sure, it took some getting used to, and it was a lot heavier than his old scythe, but it seemed very fitting for a master of Earth to wield a hammer. But that wasn't exactly what was on Cole's mind as he wandered on. He was still haunted by his dream and what Master Yang had told him.
I am Yang. I used to be known as the sensei without students. I was very strict about titles back then. Being a sensei is not something you come by easily, and so others should respect you. I used to be very strict with my students about such formalities. Now I am but a ghost of my former glory. No longer a sensei, but still the master of the Temple of Air Jitsu. It is floating in the sky. For a while, I was extremely confused about it, but since the ninja moved in, I have obtained few answers. First, I asked Cole, but he was clueless as I was. G and Nia, on the other hand, seemed to know something. I have been able to eavesdrop on them on several occasions, and have picked up bits and pieces. Apparently events involving the notorious Jin and Pirate King Narration happened and unhappened. My temple becoming airborne is an anomaly of those events. So Narration is still out there. I wonder about the possibilities. Is there some special way Jins can cheat death? Can a Jin really die? I will need to look into that. I have done terrible things in my pursuit for immortality, acceptance, and glory. My fate, bound forever to this temple, is a fitting punishment, and I am at peace with that. I still feel shameful sometimes, and I hope that I will one day be able to redeem myself to the students I wronged. I have just one student now, Cole. We have agreed to keep my presence a secret for the time being. I suspect that old Wu had some suspicion too. Once he stared intensely at my painting in the main dojo for several minutes, then chuckled and winked at it before leaving. But he is gone now, so only Cole knows for sure. I have discussed at length the nature of our relationship. It is one forged out of necessity. I desperately need company. I admit that now, and he still has many questions about his own existence, having been touched by death in several ways himself. There is another reason too. I finally told him last night. Before we met, I foolishly experimented with life and death. Now, I pay the price. After the incident where I used to gain weight and brought a curse onto myself, the temple, and my students, I found myself with plenty of time on my hands. I spent those captive years studying curses and the afterlife, and the places I yearn to go to most of all, but never can. The departed realm is the most mysterious of all. All of Ninjago's residents who have passed away in the true sense of the word have gone there. Only few have ever made it back. Normally, if you can talk about normal when you talk about realms, travel between them is possible in several ways, but the departed realm is different. Incantations, dragons, realm crystals, travelers to you with back doors are not enough. To access the departed realm, you need a rift. But a rift is dangerous, unstable, seems to have a will of its own, and you have to force it open. You can never be sure of the outcome. I worry about Cole. I don't know what will happen, but I have had much time since the last day it departed to think about it. There are many possibilities, but none of them are good. Cole is a pawn in it. I have no doubt that his dream speaks some truth, and if so, he will perish. This is tragic enough, but I fear even more is at stake. What will happen if a rift is unchecked? Will it keep expanding? Will it consume Ninjago just as it did Cole in his dream? Will the departed be able to re-enter Ninjago? If they do, how many will there be of them, and what will they be? This is a direct result of my doings on the day of the departed. I was starting to feel that there may have been more good than bad that came out of that fateful night. Cole turned mortal again, my student's curse was lifted, and my old lonely temple was cleansed and became the home of the ninja. But now I see that it isn't so. The rift on Cole's forehead must be closed.